Welcome to FRE Lunch, the official podcast of the Food and Resource Economics Department at the University of Florida. I'm Elena Poulin, the Marketing and Communications Specialist for the department.
And I'm Caleb Stair, Assistant Instructional Professor of Food and Resource Economics and the Coordinator for Undergraduate Research in the department, meaning I get to interact regularly with the members of our FRE community and see all the cool and interesting topics being explored.
That's why we made this podcast, to showcase the many ways students and faculty are using economic research to understand and address the complex issues facing agricultural and natural resource industry.
Happy holidays! From forestry to finances. That's right, today we're talking about Christmas trees.
And not just Christmas trees. As temperatures start to drop, Christmas trees aren't the only forestry products that come into high demand. Think of it this way. Those chestnuts roasting on an open fire, the wood chips and pellets that are used in smokers to prepare holiday feasts, paper used to wrap presents for loved ones, and more.
Oh, by the way, those chestnuts roasting on an open fire, they don't come for free. In 2019, Americans spent over $131 million on fire logs and another $86 million on firewood. The forests and woodlands in the United States combined make up over 1/3 of the nation's landscape, with half of that privately owned. In fact, in Florida, there are more than 300,000 private owners of forest land.
The United States forest products industry accounts for approximately 4% of the nation's total manufacturing gross domestic product. It produces over $200 billion in products every year.
And last year, the U.S. forestry industry employed 3.4 million people and generated over $250 billion in labor income. Here in Florida, forests cover more than 14.5 million acres. That's almost half of our land area. So no, we're not just beaches and springs. In fact, the state forest products industries have an economic impact of 133,000 jobs.
Now, I know we're an economics podcast, but the impact of forestry goes way beyond the economics. These forests are also providing an array of highly valuable ecosystem services.
Think of ecosystem services as a favor that forests do for the ecosystem.
That's right. These favors include things like providing a space for recreation, providing carbon sequestration and storage, which would help mitigate climate change, and providing fish and wildlife habitats and biodiversity.
And while, yes, the forestry industry does by its nature involve harvesting these forests, it's also responsible for maintaining them.
For example, in Florida, over 82 million trees are planted each year. That's 5 planted for each one cut down. This ensures that the forestry industry is sustainable and that our forests will be around for many years to come.
So that's the big picture, right? That's the forestry industry. But since it's December, what about Christmas trees?
When it comes to trees being purchased to bring home whole and decorate, there are quite a few options. Different species of pine, spruce, and fir trees are all popular choices. This year, I purchased a Fraser fir, brought down from North Carolina to be sold by a family-owned farming operation out of Virginia.
Or you could be like me and 46% of other Americans and purchase an artificial tree. These are typically made of plastic or metal and come in all sorts of colors, from green to white.
There are a lot of choices that go into the decision-making. For example, when do you plan to purchase and put up your Christmas tree? 58% of Americans plan to put up their trees in November, either after Thanksgiving or, for some of them, even earlier.
Those that plan to set up the tree earlier might go the artificial route to avoid the tree reaching its expiration date before December 25th rolls around. Additionally, they may prefer the longevity of a tree that can be reused year after year.
But plenty of people choose to purchase live trees. Some may prefer to reduce their plastic consumption, want to support their local or regional farmers, or maybe they view the process of picking out their tree each year as part of the tradition. 1 out of every 4 people who purchase real Christmas trees did so from a choose and cut farm. This might indicate that there's an aspect of enjoyment of the experience that goes into their decision making.
Other places you could purchase real trees would be chain stores. They come right behind Shoes and Cut Farms, nurseries, retail lots, even nonprofits like the Boy Scouts sell real Christmas trees. Interestingly, younger generations are more likely than other generations to choose real trees, with 35% of 18 to 29-year-olds planning to do so.
Regardless of the type of tree purchased, the economic impact of that purchase is profound. Which one is more affordable?
Data concerning pricing is a bit tricky to find, but based on data from the National Christmas Tree Association, the average price per real Christmas tree in 2018 was $78, while the average price for a fake tree was $104.
And that's not even counting the decorations. More than 40% of people plan on spending $150 or more on their Christmas tree decorations.
While some Christmas trees are produced in Florida, most come from elsewhere in the United States. In terms of number of trees harvested, the biggest producers are Oregon and North Carolina.
Not only is North Carolina as a state one of the biggest Christmas tree producers, if you break it down even further and look at a county level, Ashe County, North Carolina, along with Clackamas County, Oregon, and Missaukee County, Michigan, account for 1/3 of the Christmas trees cut and sold throughout the entire United States.
And so, to get to the root of these trees and their economic impacts, we invited our extension colleagues, Jamie and Will from NC State Extension, to join us for this episode of the podcast.
My name is Jamie Dinkins Bookwalter. I'm the mountain conifer IPM specialist for North Carolina. So that basically means that I deal a lot with the bugs and the pests, the insects and mites that live in Christmas trees. I help farmers and other stakeholders make Christmas tree farming economically and environmentally sustainable. And a lot of times, those things usually go hand in hand.
Everyone, I'm Will Kohlway. I'm the new extension specialist in Christmas tree production and marketing at NC State University. I help and serve other area agents in our Christmas tree production counties, which are 22 on the west, with primarily Fraser fir, and really all of the other Christmas trees that are ground in the east of North Carolina as well. And, production concerns and issues and, kind of assist in improving our production practices.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Extension agents are the boots on the ground for land-grant universities. They kind of act as a go-between between the folks at the universities and those out in the field.
It is very hands-on. I mean, it is such a hands-on job. You personally know these folks. You've talked on their porches. These are friends. And you get to know their farm, intimately, because we just spend a lot of time, looking at the idiosyncrasies of somebody's land that they have spent a lot of time on themselves, many of these farmers.
And so to start off with, could you provide just a brief overview of kind of what the forestry industry and specifically Christmas tree farms is like in North Carolina?
I can speak the most on Christmas tree production. We have Fraser fir, which is the premier Christmas tree, or a Cadillac of Christmas trees, due to its qualities as a Christmas tree. We are the second largest Christmas tree producing state. We produce over 300 million trees a year on quite a bit of land.
Yeah, it's a balancing act. I mean, it is not a cut and plant and harvest in 3 months. It's such a long game strategy, trying to figure out what the market's going to look like in 8 years. The farmers they're such optimists, and they take on a lot of risk. It's a chess game.
These trees are kind of a big deal. In fact, the North Carolina Fraser fir has been chosen for the White House Christmas tree 16 times. That's more than any other species.
Our ecosystem here in the Southern Appalachian Mountains is so unique because these are the remnants of boreal forests from the Pleistocene. So we are so lucky that we live in this unique area with these big mountains and this temperate rainforest, that we're able to grow these really amazing unicorn trees that have all of these characteristics that can't be replicated in other species.
Yeah, it's a cool story, talking about it. So Fraser fir is actually, Apis fraseri, is actually only found naturally in 6 pockets at the peaks of the Appalachian, kind of right in the western part of North Carolina, kind of edging into Tennessee and Virginia. Now, they're actually glacier relics. So during the last ice age, some balsam type trees, their predecessor came down with the glaciers, and then as they receded, the only place they were really able to, take seed and survive were the peaks of these Appalachian mountains. And over, thousands of years of evolution, they really became locally adapted to the mountains here.
It's also an interesting crop in terms of how climate change is affecting this crop, because, this, like I said before, this is a crop that it's the remnants of boreal forest. As the glaciers retreated, these forests were able to move up the mountainside and persist. And now with climate change, we are, I would say, struggling to continue to farm this tree that likes cold, wet, foggy conditions, and the climate is changing. So there's a lot of different aspects of this crop that can be examined and discussed in lenses that aren't just how to grow a tree. It's, the climate change issue, invasive species issue, disease, and how disease spreads through a population. And then, of course, just, the numbers of making a family farm work and farmland, passing that farm on to the next generation. Lots of stuff with those trees.
Now, it probably comes as little surprise to you all that storms, they're not great for trees. This includes Christmas trees.
Sadly, this year North Carolina was hit particularly hard by Hurricane Helene. The impacts from this storm were widespread and affected industry in a variety of ways.
Much like the general damage across Western North Carolina mountains, some farms were spared, some farms suffered a lot of damage. In some areas, if you had a bridge, it was destroyed. Many farms lost vehicles, roads, other infrastructure. Whole acres were washed away into rivers and streams. Trying to rebuild that soil that was lost is going to be years of effort and money.
Due to the nature of the industry and the needs of the tree at its different life stages, the hardest hit portions of the industry were seedling producers.
Some of the highest level of damage was incurred by farmers that grow seedlings, and seedlings are often grown near streams because nurseries need good water sources. And we also lost seedlings that were grown in greenhouses. Some farmers lost mature trees in landslides. In Avery County alone, the county director there estimated over $30 million in losses in his 5 highest volume growers. I spoke to the specialized agent for nurseries in Western North Carolina, and he had estimated that 1/4 of the nurseries grown in Western North Carolina were impacted. So yeah, it's a mixed bag. Some had got away with no damage and others were extremely, extremely impacted.
Really where we see the largest impact was damage to the infrastructure. So the roads were damaged, farm equipment had been damaged, farm roads damaged, and those had to get triaged and repaired in time because Hurricane Helene hit right there in September. And October 1, we have people out there already harvesting trees. And so, it was a tight time, and all of our growers incurred extra costs early on to get those roads ready for the harvest season and the kind of choose and cut season, which is, starts right after, like a week before Thanksgiving to right up to Christmas.
This year, the North Carolina Christmas Tree Association reported that there were not any impacts to the pricing or availability of their Christmas trees, in part thanks to rapid recovery action taken by the state.
We've had really phenomenal support with all the organizations, the Department of Transportation in North Carolina, agents, growers, are really trying to pinpoint, these important roads we need so that they're ready in time. The thing I always I've been using the word tremendous because we had the tree for the White House actually came from Avery County this year. And that's one of our most heavily impacted counties from Helene. And, they named it tremendous as kind of a representative of the tremendous spirit our growers have up here, and like resilience of a grower or a farmer that kind of weather these storms.
Because these trees aren't an annual crop, this may mean that the impacts of this year's storms on the Christmas tree market will be felt further down the line.
From seed to harvest, you're looking at 12 years to grow a 6 to 7 foot freezer fir, with 3 years and kind of like that seedling stage where it's often greenhouse and line out beds. And then 3 or 4 years old, where you go out to the field. And once you're out in the field, you gain about a foot a year in growth.
However, efforts are being taken by extension agents, producers, and policymakers to ensure the industry recovers stronger than ever.
Seedlings being impacted, we might see an impact, 8 years down the line, but it also gives us a lot of time here at Extension and with other NC State and other organizations to really get seedlings out and get ahead of it, replanting and using some of the improved genetics in the White Hill Lab is generating to recoup that maybe gap with trees that grow faster.
Local sales can support farmers during these challenging times, and so the desire to contribute to resilience in these hard-hit areas may even factor into purchasing decisions this holiday season.
So I hope that we can impress upon your listeners how important it is to support, when you're buying that tree at a lot, even if it's a lot, you are supporting Western North Carolina and you're supporting Virginia. There's a face behind that tree. The rest of this whole tree's life, this tree has created a whole ecosystem for other plants and animals and trees throughout its life. So this has been giving back to the community around it for this tree's whole life.
Really, like Jamie was saying earlier, like when you buy a Christmas tree, even if from anywhere, North Carolina, but all across the states, you're supporting a farmer at the end of the day, and that farmer supports the community, and that adds to the sustainability, not just to our environment because we plant and grow, but also to our counties and communities.
So that, in general, is the state of the Christmas tree industry in North Carolina and in the U.S. right now.
I think what we've learned here is from classic holiday movies to advertisements for Coca-Cola.
Caleb, we're a Pepsi school?
Yeah. Anyway, we're all bombarded each year with what an ideal Christmas is supposed to look like.
But the bottom line is that we all choose to celebrate or not celebrate the holidays in our own way. So, whether you have a real tree that you chop down today,
or an artificial tree that has lived in your attic for the last 360 days, or no tree at all, we hope you pause and reflect this holiday season on the economics of your holiday purchasing decisions.
And with that, we've reached the end of our final episode for the year. So we want to take this moment to wish you a wonderful end to your 2024.
And we hope to see you back next year for another round of FRE Lunch. If you've made it this far, you've finished the entire episode, and we thank you for that. Tune in next time for more food for thought. Thanks again for joining us on this episode of FRE Lunch. We hope you'll come back again for seconds.